Welcome to Slackin' Off with Brady Slack.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Slackin' Off. I'm your host, Brady Slack. Today, we are going to embody the phrase that we always say where, welcome to Slackin' Off, but you'll find that we do everything but slacking off. And today, again, like I said, from the very beginning, I've used this podcast as an opportunity to learn and grow. And I get questions all the time that say, hey, I'm working this W-2 job, but I want to find a way to maybe look for passive income, or I want to find a way to get out of that rat race. And today's guest, Ian Horowitz, is someone who I've met and kind of embodies that. Ian, thanks for hopping on Slackin' Off today.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Brady. Jesus Christ, Brady Slack. What's up? I can't talk. I just finished up an event. My voice is a little horsey. But either way, no, man. I'm glad to be on. I'm glad we met at that first mastermind event that we both attended. I'm glad, and that we've stayed in touch. And happy to help your audience and tell our backstory of going from a government worker to a full-time real estate investor. So. Is the easiest way to say it. So,
well, I'm sure the journey wasn't very easy. Let's talk a little bit, and again, this more so for me than anything, because I don't really know the entire backstory. I've heard bits and pieces, but you were a fireman. You were, you used to not have a beard, not because you didn't want to, but because you couldn't have one. Tell us why fire? Why did you become a fireman? What was that about?
Yeah, so you're actually making me go way back. Growing up, we volunteered local here in Pennsylvania. It was kind of the thing to do. We always volunteered at the local firehouse, and then growing up, I just worked some dumb jobs here and there, some failed ventures of like trying to be a landscaper or whatever. And I needed something more stable. My dad had passed away. A couple friends of mine had got hired in Baltimore, Maryland. At the time in Philadelphia to be a fireman, you actually had to physically live in the city to even take the test, to get hired to work there. And, city living, fast forward, is not what it used to be. And even at that point, I was like, man, city living's not like, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't want to be told where I want to live. However, in Baltimore, I could go be a fireman and I can live wherever I want. So that was kind of appealing. We took tests all over the country, Central PA, Northern Virginia, Baltimore, New York, Boston, anywhere that you could try to get in and take a test, just making the reps. And ultimately, we got hired in Baltimore. Myself and four of my other friends, we all got hired there. And really about the firefighting is it's probably one of the best jobs that you can have without a college education. I tell people all the time, the adrenaline rush. I know you might have a PG show here, but it's better than any drugs you can do. I promise you, the adrenaline rush is something else that you can't explain to anyone, and you're legitimately helping people. Yeah, my time in Baltimore City, working in the heart of West Baltimore, where they filmed The Wire and the riots happened and all that kind of crazy stuff. No matter what you think or how the people live, like people still need help, right? Like you don't worry about their background. Like all the BS and all the politics and everything we deal with goes out the window. We're there to help somebody. And while I might want to admit it or not, you do get off on that, man. Like you do, like you're watching something improve. It could be a fire, it could be a medical emergency, it could be a vehicle rescue. It could literally just be an old lady that's locked out of her house and needs help. And being in that public service role, I guess it fulfilled my need to give back. It fulfilled a lot of needs of being able to help people. And that's ultimately how I ended up in the fire service career. And it was a really good time. So, just to clear up, I worked for Baltimore City Fire Department for 15 years in the heart of West Baltimore. If you ever watched The Wire, where the riots happened, that is where we worked for 15 years, my business partner and I. And it's everything you see on TV, I promise you, is true.
That's okay. I'm going to put a pause because you mentioned something that we talk about a lot about this because, again, just the nature of the people that are on this podcast, they're all business owners. They've been through the ringer. You talked about past failures, right? Landscaping, this, that, or the other. What did those past failures make you want to look for something secure, or like, did just naturally you needed something to secure maybe an income, or what? Like, was it just like, I'm sick of the failure and I just want something that'll work, or what was that?
Yeah, I mean, I was always a happy. I still am. I'm pretty risk adverse and like will go out and just try anything. In the same sense, at that point in my life, I probably should have just joined the military and had some structure around my life. I had a little bit of a rough past, and just having zero structure for a long period of time probably would have helped me with that. But yeah, I was looking for some sort of security of like, all right, I just got to get someone on the straight and path and then I can get there. I mean, like, without the fire department, I would not have this real estate business. I was not bankable. I was not capable of having money on me at like any given time to be able to do anything, right? And the fire department, whether the paramilitary organization taught me or not, it did give me some sort of sense of security, payday every other Friday, and I could knock down a bunch of my debt and get my credit score out of the 500s and get it to somewhere where I could actually go finance a piece of real estate, right? Like my wife's always been squared away. We were dating at the time. She bought some houses pre '08 and had some luck with it. I was like, oh man, this is really cool. And here I am, just like complete degenerate, no no wherewithal to be able to help her and finance her and like talk. She's like, yeah, why would I listen to you? You can't even pay your bills every other Friday. I'm like, oh, all right, she's got a point, right? So yeah, I think the security aspect is something really big. And to like fast forward all the way over to here where we are today, I even tell our investors today the goal is to take your active income and turn it into passive income revenue streams. And it's like this seesaw all the way up. And then one day, all of a sudden, your passive income outgrows your active income. And that's what happened for us just in a way shorter period of time. And if you just make those small steps, it works. And if I go back and look at it in my early 20s, I had no active income. I had, all right, I'm going to try to do a landscape job here. That was just all I was doing is making up for a couple weeks prior to. So, yeah, I think security was probably a big thing, whether I want to admit it or not. And it allowed us to get to where we are today.
I had no idea that I mean, in a lot of the groups that, with a lot of people that I work with or that I communicate with or people that I masterminds with, we always talk about our spouses being an integral part of who we are and what we do. I didn't know that your wife was in a real estate investor before you were. I had no idea.
Yep, she was technically. It's not. I don't think I've ever told anyone that. You might be the first person I've told that because you were the first person to actually go way, 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 way back. But
Yeah.
yeah, she was technically a real estate investor before me. She had bought a rental house local to outside of Philadelphia where we grew up. One of the good old no doc loans. Got herself a house, rented it out, got a nice line of credit against it, had some cash. That ultimately allowed to buy our first house in Baltimore where we lived. Um, and then from there, I had an idea then, as you see, I like the Monopoly pieces, is like,
Yeah.
man, this is like real life Monopoly. And like, I knew I liked that. I just never knew how I was going to get there because I was like, dude, if you look at it today, like what sits in the bank account on some of our escrows or just bank account in general, you're like, holy shit, that's like a lot of numbers. And like back then, I couldn't even fathom to come up with like a $10,000 down payment. Like that was like $1 billion to me at that point in my life, right?
Yeah.
And so like to watch my wife be able to do these things, I was like, man, that's really cool. Like shit, how do I do this? And I just had no wherewithal to get that done.
So how did what made her want to start to invest in real estate? Did she have someone that was mentoring her? Did she have some family that was doing it, or was it just kind of like hey, I heard about it, so let's try it?
Yeah, so her parents actually sold and serviced outdoor power equipment, like commercial lawnmowers, weed whackers,
Okay.
trimmers, those types of things. And a lot of guys would come through, a lot of landscapers would come through. And it's not an easy it's not an easy business, right? Like it's very seasonal where we are, presumably where you are too. It's very seasonal.
Yeah.
We don't get a ton of snow sometimes. And there was a lot of guys that would just come through here. Oh, yeah, I bought a rental house here and there just to supplement some of the income. And her dad, you know, old school, the generation before us, right? Very like, all right, I go in at 6, I work to 6, Monday to Saturday, right? And he was just trying to tell his daughter at that point, like, hey, there's a better way to make money. You don't need to go and wrench on mowers and grind it out all the time. And he pushed her along. And it might have been something deep down inside of him of wanting to make good investments. But ultimately showing, and like they didn't have a ton of rental real estate, but just hearing everybody that would come through their shop. Actually, I'm sitting here now. We're luckily enough that we were able to buy it from them when they retired, and we're moving our home office into here. But all the guys would always come through and just talk about, would talk about the different ways to make money while they weren't doing it, and that's ultimately what started our careers into rental real estate. Was there was a guy that would come in every year and buy new mowers. And one year they said, "Hey man, like every year you come in and buy a new mower, you didn't buy one this year. Like we ordered an extra one because this is always what you do every year." He's like, "No, I bought a house a year for the last 30 years and now I retired." And this dude had 30 houses that were paid off in cash. And I was like, "Holy crap, dude. Like that's it. Sign me up." Like that's at that point in my life, that's like, I was like, "That's it. I'm going to work in the fire department for 30 years. I'm going to buy one house every year. I'm going to end up with 30 houses that are completely paid off. I'm going to be king." And just listening to people, I think, is one of the most powerful things you can do, and learn and hear how other people do it.
So, well, I mean, I don't even need to ask the next question because that's exactly what happened with you. You were working in the fire department, and I don't think you necessarily, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you went into working with the fire department with that mentality. I think later down the road that happened for you, didn't it? You had been working in the fire department and were kind of sick of working there, and were trying to figure out how to get out. Were you not?
Yeah. So just a quick synopsis of what happened. We get hired in 2007, 2008, my business partner and I, respectively. So 2009, we get furloughed. Here we are. We both go to government jobs for security and a pension. 2009, we
Right.
get furloughed. 2010, they shut companies down. 2011, they say, "You know what? That 20-year pension, screw you. Now you got to work 25 years. 2012, Obamacare comes through. Everybody in the country gets screwed, but Obamacare comes through. So now our healthcare is more expensive. 2014 or 2013, they shut more companies down. 2014, they switch our schedules. And I was like, dude, how much more can we take? But on the sidebar of all this, like this isn't a 6 year, my first 6 years of my career are just like an absolute like whirlwind. You're like, oh my God, what just
Sure.
happened? But 0 to 5 in the fire department, everybody's like, yo, coolest job in the world. You don't have kids. Yo, I was 25, no kids. And then all of a sudden the wife's like, yo, I want kids. I'm like, oh, all right. And then she's like, well, I want to stay home with the kids. And you're like, I make like 60 grand and that's like $800 every other week. Like if I'm lucky. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So then you start thinking about those things. And then even past that, like even just the thought of having kids, the one unique thing about the fire department or military or police, really any job, you could do more so in ours, but you could die. Like that's it. Like you're done. You're gone. So I'm sitting here thinking, I work for a very unstable city. I won't go into politics. I work for a very unstable city. I got pension systems all over the country going bankrupt. Detroit, California, private industries, Bethlehem Steel, United Steelworkers, all these pension systems are just like going bankrupt left and right. And we're like, so you're telling me we work 30 years and then at year 30, I'm going to trust Baltimore City to service my pension and actually pay me? Because we don't pay Social Security. We only pay to the pension. And this isn't like the railroad union that is like squared away. Like we're talking about a very poor city. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm watching guys with 40 years at the table. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, there's also that side of things. And then there was this overarching theme of like, what if I break a leg? What if I can't go to work tomorrow? What if I die? Like, what happens to my family? How does Christine and the girl, we didn't have kids then, but now, how does Christine and the girls, or how are they taken care of? And I'm like, so now I'm dead and I got to worry about Baltimore City stroking a check to my wife. I'm not trusting that, dude. Whereas and the other thing was, I was like, how can I make money while I'm asleep at work? Because also during all this time, we're working side work. We're just hustling, dude. Like we're
Yeah.
landscaping. We're working 8 days a week. And I'm like, yo, I can't take care of my family. I can't work all the time. Like I got to find a better way. And I was like, well, what can I do while I'm at work, while I'm sleeping in bed, assuming we got to sleep, night to sleep in, and make money? And I was like, well, someone, when they rent a piece of real estate, even though they might pay us on the first of the month, they are always paying us for every second that they are in that house. I'm earning money. And I was like, I like that idea. I really do. And then simultaneously, that guy came in to not, or didn't come in to buy his mower. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Start line. I'm more of a universe guy, not really a God guy. A couple other guys around work are like, hey, we're going to this investor meetup. You should come. I was like, I don't really know. I go there and I meet my mentor at that time. And that was it, dude. And had I not taken that action, had I not been thinking about these things, had the external forces of the fire department of no overtime and pension problems and all these other things not been taking place, I don't know that I ever take action. And that's really the biggest thing. Too many people are comfortable. Too many people are like, yeah, I really want this, but you know what? My W-2 pays me 6 figures a year. I don't really do shit. I just kind of go in and stroke the keys and whatever, right? Like, it's not that bad. Where I'm sitting here going, it could be that bad. It might be that bad. It actually is that bad. I got to go do something. And that's kind of how the whole thing started. So,
I mean, I understand the situation really good. My dad's been working. He's been working for the same government job for 20. I think it's 21 or 22 years. I'm 27, so that's all I've known my dad to do. Right? He's like the
right.
eighth most senior employee in the organization that he works for a water district here in Utah. And um, I've looked at that over the years, and I know he listens to the podcast, and he is my dad's a wonderful man. But I've looked at him over the years, and I thought he hasn't been overly happy with his job in those 21 or 22 years that he's worked there. Um, and he's always been you called it the dependency, right? And that need to be dependent on someone else to earn a dollar. And there is comfort in that. There is consistency in that. Um, and that sometimes I wonder myself, geez, that'd be nice, like sometimes that is nice.
Yep.
But the alternative I've found to be it's harder. Um, it's much more exciting, but there's much more opportunity. And we talked. I want to dive into. We referred to it as bankability just a little bit earlier because I think a lot of people that will listen to this probably find themselves in the same situation where they've been working for someone. That people would call it they've been working for the man. Like, how do I get started, right? And so when you went to that investor meetup, were you guys in the position to be able to start to invest into real estate at that time, or what had to happen for you to be able to invest into real estate?
Yeah. So in 2012, when I go to this investor meetup, my credit score was like 570. I think maybe we had like 10 or 15 grand between us, and it was mostly my wife's money because I was just paying down all kinds of dumb credit card debt and stuff that I had from my past. And we had like 15 grand. I had nothing. But the other thing I had at that point in my life, because I think I was 30. I was right around 30, 29, 30. We weren't married yet. We didn't have kids yet. The one thing that I did have was to say, if I lose this 30 grand and I go bankrupt and they sue me and they foreclose on me, well, F it. I'm already in a bad spot anyway. It is what it is. I'll just work that much harder and pay all this stupid debt off. Right.
Yeah.
And that was the thing for me. I found, my first investment, y'all can look it up, 3205 Lindale Avenue in Baltimore City. It is not the best neighborhood in the world. It's called the 4x4 because it's 4 blocks by 4 blocks. It's a little sectioned off community. It's not terrible. It's not great. I'd probably live there if I was a single guy, if I was really need a place to live, but it's not great. I paid $25,000 for this house. I scratched 2 nickels together. I got a hard money loan at like 16-6 or something. I was looking it up recently. It was something. No, it might have been 18-6. It was something insane.
More than double what interest rates are right now.
Yo, insane, dude. And like, I had no clue I was gonna read. Like, I'm talking to hard money lender. He's like, "Well, what are you gonna do with it?" I'm like, I'm gonna refinance it, and if I can't do that, I'm gonna sell it." Like, I had no clue. I was just trying anything, and the dude bought the story. I think that's why he charged me some stupid rate, thinking, "All right, this guy's gonna screw up, and I'll keep the house." And dude, all during that time, I'm trying to renovate this house, and we weren't doing it the right way then. Like, I'm out there painting and demoing and doing plumbing, and then I'm also landscaping, and I'm working the fire department. I'm trying to get every
Yeah.
dollar I can through the front door to get this thing done. And I was like, I got to know that it works. I got to know that it works. And boom, there it is. I get $1,250 for a $50,000 investment. Dude, that was like crack, man. Like an overtime shift at that point was only worth like $300 or $400 to me. I just made 3 overtime shifts in one shot. And after debt service, once I did get it refinanced, I was basically making 2 overtime shifts with one house. I was like, golden. And then I had no clue what to do next. And I bought a second house in the same neighborhood because I didn't know any better. I'm like, this is great. And I did it again. And I was like, wow, that is awesome. But again, like, the stars weren't aligned, dude. Like, there was nothing. Like, if you look at my history or what I was at that point, you would say this kid's an idiot. He's screwed. He's never going to be successful, right? And it's true though, man. Like, it's like most people are scared because they're scared to fail, and they don't want to deal with the failure. Whereas I said, you know what? If I fail, I got 30 years ahead of me. I can always work for the fire department. And that was the advantage of the security of the job, right? Like,
Sure.
you got to use that job as a leverage piece to get you to the next level. It's all a stepping stone to get to where you want to go.
But
And
do you think? Sorry to cut you off. Do you think you would have? Do you think you would have made that risk had you and your wife been married, or had you had one of your kids at that point? Do you think it would have been different? What would
I
you
think
have done?
it'd be a harder conversation. I probably would have had my wife more on board than she probably was. But yes, it would have been a touch harder, but it's still like, hey, like, I want to do this for our family, right? Like, everything we do is for our family, our legacy, our growth. And
Yeah.
I think my wife was on board. And that's another hard conversation that most people don't have with their wives or significant others of like, hey, like, I want to do this and here's why. And too many times, most people end up getting married to someone opposite of them, and they're like, the risk aversion's like way up. I want the security. I want this. I want that. And it's just easier to stay status quo, man. But I think now more than ever, it's easier. Like, dude, think about it. 10 years ago, like, YouTube's not what it is today. Online community groups is not what it was. All we had back then, and I wasn't really into it, was like the Bigger Pockets game. I read a paper book, dude. Like, and for me to open a book, I read that thing cover to cover like that, and everybody was like, holy crap, dude, like, you actually put effort into something. I'm like, yeah, because like, I wanted it that bad. And I think that's the thing, is that like, too many people are scared to put themselves out there. In the end, who cares, dude? You only got one chance on this. You literally only have one chance on this earth. Go do it, and do it big.
I think you're right. And I look back on like what what I've built and when I started, and yeah, I at that time, me and my wife had no kids. We just bought in our first house, but my wife had a really good cosmetology business at the time. She was making probably close, if not just a little bit over 6 figures for two single people, not including my income. That was fantastic, right? And so for us, there was an opportunity to take a risk because we knew we had something to fall back on. Well, in the midst of me doing that, we found out we were pregnant, and all of a sudden it became a holy shit, what are we doing moment, to instead of like, oh yeah, we're okay, right? We can make it through. But then but I will have to say, when that oh shit moment came, it made me want to work harder. And I don't know that I would be in the same position I am now had we not known that, right?
Yeah.
Because now obviously I had my wife, I had something to work for, but there was like, it became real. Like I had to provide.
Yeah, and I think most people find out their fight or flight at
Yeah,
that point is like, put your
real
back
quick.
against the wall. My back, like, in real time, I didn't realize my back was against the wall, right? Like, I'm sitting here going, oh, the fire department's fine. I love this job. But really, my back was against the wall with pension systems and all these other things that were going
Yeah,
on of like, dude, I gotta do something. And I was against the wall. I did want kids. I did want this. I did want to provide. And those were the big things that we were all working, like, you need those moments to push you over the edge. And I would even challenge you to say, like, yeah, at that point you find out that you're pregnant and it's like, holy shit, I gotta go. But in the same sense, people aren't taking Brady seriously. Like, oh yeah, whatever, dude. Like, that's cute. You
Yeah.
want your little tax thing, but I'm not gonna give you my whole business to do. I'll refer my family member that only needs like a BS
Yeah.
tax return done. And next you know, boom, there you are, because you have to work, you have
Yeah.
to grind. And that's what motivates you. I tell everyone, go figure out what's going to make you uncomfortable and go do it.
Yeah. I agree that like it's one of the cheesiest kind of phrases ever, but like no growth is experienced in the comfort zone, but there's no comfort in the growth zone, but it's very real, you know. Um
Hmm.
we so for those listening, I think it's I always say real estate is one of, if not the best investments, and I look at it from a tax lens. Obviously, that's what I do, but um, real estate is one of the easiest, if not the easiest, games to play from my perspective in an advisor position because it's it's easy to make a lot of money if you have the right understanding of what you're trying to accomplish. And for those listening, Ian has talked a little bit about what it takes to get started. Um, there is lots of opportunity to get started in real estate through seller financed or leveraging a HELOC or leveraging a cash out refi from a primary or existing asset. Using the W 2 that you currently have to help you get a loan for a second property. Now, in this storyline, we've gone through that process so far. You'd acquired a couple properties. Your wife had a couple properties. Um, you don't do a ton of single family properties, though. You right now are. When I met you, I didn't, and I still don't know that I do. I don't know that I know too many people that own more multifamily and storage facility units than you. So how did you go from a single family to now? I mean, we're instead of buying a property for $25,000, we're buying properties for $25 million. I mean, that's the difference in what we're doing. So how did it go from point A to point Z? Because that's a stark difference in asset class.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. I just want to hit pause real quick of like my business partner Dan. He got smacked by the '08 crisis and couldn't refinance his house, had a bunch of debt. We know how he got out of debt. He started wholesaling, right? He didn't need any
Okay,
money. He didn't have any money. He could have rubbed two nickels together, but he starts wholesaling. I'm doing my thing on the other side, and then boom, we link up and off we go, right? So
okay,
we do a bunch of flips. We do build a family house portfolio. Now, all during this time, like, dude, like, we're not classically trained. We don't know much. Like, we're trying to go to banks and
sure,
get loans. At that point, we didn't realize like being firemen was a story that they were telling the bank, and that allowed us to get more loans. And as we're grinding away, my business partner naturally became the integrator, and I naturally became the visionary. So as we're growing, he's fixing everything and keeping it all in order, keeping the books right, like anally keeps the books right. And but thank God, because that's not my personality type, and I need somebody
yeah,
like that. So as we're growing, it's like, okay, now we're adding a team member here, a team member there, and it's like, we don't, I don't want to say we don't know what we're doing, but a lot of it is like trial by fire and learning. And in 2000, late 18, early 19, we started to get priced out of the market. Excuse me. We went from being all in on properties at $120,000, 100 to $120,000 for 1250 to 1350 rent, to, and the houses were worth about 150 grand, to all of a sudden people were paying for shells at 50 grand and they're all in for like 150, 200,000. I'm like, well, rent didn't move, values didn't move, we're out. And luckily my business partner Dan, he was the integrator, so he hyper concentrated on operations. So as he's working on the operation of it, I'm researching new stuff. And I would always look at multifamily and storage and just like bigger asset classes. It was almost like we have success, but now like I want the next level of success. And to me, I was like, well, this is it. Like I want to raise capital. I want to help my friends and family. And luckily for us, we wrote a book on Section 8 housing that we did, subsidized housing. It's called Subsidize the Book. Um, and we wrote a book about that and we were advertising it. And someone reached out and said, hey, I have this 76 unit apartment building. I'd like to sell it to you and I want to owner finance it. And I was like, excuse me? And she's like, yeah, I want to hold 90%. And I said, this has to be a joke. So I tell Dan and whatever. And at this point, the biggest building we've ever bought was like a 7-unit building for like $450,000. We're talking 10x, dude. Like, and
Oh,
yeah, no, dude, it was like, yo, again, the universe, right? Like the power of whatever you want to call it, God, universe, whatever it is
yeah.
you believe in, brought us Judy and got talking to her. And she's like, look, my mom, she needs $20,000 a month in in-home care. We're not getting any money from the property manager. They're burning us up. I really like your guys' story. I want to sell it to you. And when we did that first deal, the same, like, I think a lot of guys in the fire department were like, yeah, whatever, you guys, that's cute. You're buying a bunch of houses. And then we buy this apartment building, and all of a sudden people are like, holy shit, this is real. Then when we quit our job, people were like, holy shit, this is real. Like, this is really real. And when we did that, off we went, man. And we just continued to grow. And we bought that 76 unit apartment building. Then we bought an 80,000 square foot commercial redevelopment. Then we bought some storage. And once we figured out what we learned is all these little singles we were hitting, even though we thought single family houses were home runs, really they were a bunch of singles just loading the bases up over and over and over again,
Yeah.
refining our process, building our team, learning all the shit that we didn't know how to do. Because if you said, oh, go syndicate a piece of real estate in 2012, I'd be like, I have no clue what you're talking about. I wouldn't even know how to talk to an investor. I wouldn't be able to show them past performance.
What does syndication mean?
Go out and put a deal together and raise money from your friends and family and have them participate with you. Private placement, whatever you guys want to call it. Essentially, we go out and syndicate the real estate deal of like we sponsor it, and then we have our friends and family come in and put money into the deal, and then they're equity owners with us, and they get to ride the wave up and down. Actually, I was
Yeah.
watching my phone. A bunch
Yeah.
of people are asking for their K1s, your favorite time of the year.
Yeah.
But that's the fun part. Had we not done all those little singles, those 100 single family houses, I don't know that we wouldn't have the construction team to handle that 76 units. We wouldn't have the leasing team. We wouldn't have the bookkeeping back end. None of that stuff. We couldn't have done any of that without doing all these other things.
I might title the name of this podcast episode "The Universe Where God Gave Me Judy." That's a funny story, right?
Yeah.
Now to kind of highlight this, above and beyond the construction teams or the leasing or the underwriting, whatever that might take, I think people also need to understand that, again, I say real estate's one of the easiest investments because it's very easy to actually scale based on how tax law is written right now. An individual can take a single family or a couple single family homes and use the appreciation to exchange for larger projects. And not only with those larger projects will you most likely experience more rental income, but you also diversify a little bit of your risk. So where if you have a bunch of single family homes, you can't afford to have a vacant property or two, you can have a few vacant storage units or a few vacant apartments when you have 76 units. So the growth game in real estate is also very real too. That I wanted to make sure we touched on. But for you, and this is probably the coolest part, and I actually made a note. I just wrote the word help because you alluded to it while you were a fireman. And I've said this before, I think in my very first episode when I was kind of introducing the show, a long time ago, not a long time ago, it was a few years ago when I was leaving my job to start kind of this entrepreneurship or the business. My grandpa told me that he made something very clear to me. He said, people will never care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right. And one thing that I really admired about you is not only have you found this success for you and your partner Dan has found this success, but you've reached back out to the community that gave you what you have and tried to help lift them up as well. Tell me if we can highlight a little bit about that.
Yeah, and it's everything. It's not just the investors. As much as I love them, dude, I don't have any of this without them, right? But if you put your property first, your core business, whether it's doing accounting or landscaping or owning a property, if you do right by your subject matter, by your property, the dividends come out and ultimately you can take care of everyone else, right? And by us doing the right thing over and over and over again, I don't want to say we've come out on top, but we've always been on the right side of most situations. And some days it sucks because you feel like you're rolling over and saying, just take advantage of me. But on other times, it's like I did the right thing. I can clear my conscience and I can go to bed. And that's big to us, is getting up and doing the right thing every day. And that's what comes out. I also tell people with this whole, like, I like how you put it, caring is also the one thing the fire department did teach us, whether we want to know it or not, is we couldn't leave until the thing was mitigated, right? Whatever it is, a fire, a medical emergency, whatever it may be. We did not leave the scene until it was resolved. Well, guess what spilled over into our business? Whatever was wrong, we were dumb enough. I like to say we were dumb enough, but we were dumb enough to come back over and over and over and over again to fix it and make it right. Because too many people just give up after it didn't work. Fuck this, right? And again, that goes back to caring. It goes back to all this of like, yo, when we started having, like, very early on, I was like, damn, we need to bring on like our friends and family because like this is the world's greatest opportunity. Like banks are like willing to lend us our net worth ahead of time, and we could literally like just get in there and go do these things. But it was too hard on the single family. And then as we got the bigger deals, it was like we started telling our friends and family, they're like, yeah, we really want to do this because like this makes sense to us. And that's the whole goal in all this, is to help and provide. Because you know what? We've changed our trajectory in our family trees. And if I could help one other fireman, one other police officer or nurse, that's most of our investors is blue collar background type jobs, mostly in the public service industry, is if we can help them just have one look that the Wall Street guys normally get, that we get a chance to look at, it means a lot to us, because our investor base is our friends and family money. That money is way more important. I could give a crap less about the bank. I could care less about getting paid some days. I care about their money and making sure that it's working for them and that it's safe and secure. And that's what matters. And, a lot of the times these other syndicators, professional syndicators, they're worried about their fees. They don't really give a shit what happens with the asset. We care. We make sure that our investors are taken care of. Some days it's not the easiest conversation, but other days it's always worth it, no matter what we do.
How do people identify the difference between what you guys are doing in the syndications you operate versus the syndications that do have a fee-based structure that are dependent on making those fees? Like how would you advise someone to identify something?
Yeah, and I would tell, if so this whole thing wraps together, right? Like there's a billion ways to get involved in real estate, right? Like you can go out and do it how we did it, and we bought our own real estate in exchange for running the real estate and having those headaches and getting all this beautiful gray hair. You should get paid higher returns, right?
Yeah.
Or you might say, you know what, Brady, listen, man, like I got a badass company. You see my books. I do want to diversify into some real estate, but I don't want the headaches. And then I want to find someone like Ian or another syndicator. How does that work? And you start looking into it. You need to look into what I tell people is you're betting the jockey in the end. And you need to find someone that you resonate with. And you need to sit down and have conversations and not just throw money at your first deal. The other thing you need to do is look at the fee structure. How are these guys getting paid? Are they getting up front? Are they getting it on the back? Most of our money is not made until all the investors are made whole. So when things are in stabilization mode, we don't make a lot of money. We make a small acquisition fee for putting the whole deal together. And we have a small servicing fee because, as Brady can tell you, talking to your accountant takes up a lot of your time to put this stuff together. And we do need some bookkeeper help. Other than that, we don't get paid. Like if the thing just kind of like flatlines, me and Dan never get paid. And we're working for free, and we're making sure that the investor money's working. Whereas some of the bigger, more Wall Street type syndicators is they'll take a smaller piece day one. We get a little bit larger piece. I'll be honest with you guys. But I tell my investors is I want the bigger piece because I want to work that much harder to get to my payday. Whereas in the Wall Street type, they get like 20%. They get like a real small piece day one, the person who sponsors the deal. And then if they hit all these target metrics, all of a sudden they own the lion's share of it. But in exchange for getting that small piece up front, they get a bunch of junk fees up front. And they've really been monetized. So if the investment goes bad, well, you know what? They got paid, whatever. Let's just mitigate our risk and get rid of this thing. And if it goes well, guess what? We're going to get paid, right? Versus us, it's like we're not getting paid until this thing actually achieves and does what it's supposed to do. And going back to the betting the jockey statement, like that's where we tell people our strong suit, I'll be honest with you, is executing and doing the actual being the operators of the deal. Our weaknesses can be sometimes is more of like the investor reporting stuff. But the Wall Street guys are really good at stuff. They're always trying to make you feel happy and go lucky. It's like, yo, just pick up the phone and I'll tell you exactly what's going on. I'll put you on a plane. We can go out, go look at whatever you want to do, right? Like, so for us, it's like, look, we're really good at this one thing. That's what we do. And that's when you bet us as the jockey, that's what you're betting. In the end, you should understand the horse, right? Like you got to understand the asset class
Sure.
and what you're getting into. But in the end, all your returns are based on how much headache you want.
A lot of times, especially like with I call it the financial porn that you see on TikTok or Instagram or
Oh,
YouTube
yeah.
with passive income and active income. And as a business owner, I've just come to learn that if you want truly passive income, you have to lower the expectation with the amount of input that you're going to give into that investment. And this is where, like, on a higher level form, you talk about the syndications and the fund management and things like that. And there is true passive income. Like there are reports that the IRS puts out that says that the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. Um, but I don't think people really understand that they have to really refine the one main source of income that they have until they can execute on the other multiple sources of passive income. And true passive income is betting on that jockey who is making an active income source out of your passive income source. So I would agree 100% with what you said.
Yeah, the word passive and active, in your space gets so convoluted, right? And
Oh
I think
yeah.
that people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy real estate and it's passive," and I'm like, "Dude, it's the most fucking active thing you can do." Excuse my French, but is like it is the most active thing you can do, right?
Right.
If you want
Yeah.
passive, go stick your money in. This is not stock advice because I don't buy them, but like, go stick your money in Apple or a dividend-paying stock, right? Like that's
Yeah.
passive, right? Everything else after that's active. And I always like the people, I'm going to buy real estate and I'm going to put a property manager in place. And that's how passive it's going to be. All you did was move that daily headache. Instead of yelling at the tenant, you're yelling at your project manager or your property manager all the time. It's like, hey, what's going on here? How's this working? Why? Like, you're actively managing somebody and it's your money. You should actively manage it, right? Like, and I don't know why people, and maybe this is where like 401ks and deferred comp come in of like, oh, just put it in there, it'll be fine. It's like, no, dude, like that's your net worth, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, yes, good job for saving, but like learn about it. Learn what you're about. Most people don't understand what they're buying when they're buying stocks. And very early on, like I didn't get it. I was like, yo, I need like billions of dollars to like have a dividend that's worth paying for my life, like 2%. What is that?
Yeah.
And most people don't stop to go, okay, what does this look like? How do I build passive income? Well, it's not really passive. It's just you're not going to work every day and working for the man. I probably work harder now, as you probably do, Brady. Work harder
Yeah.
than you've ever worked in your life, but you know what? It's on your terms, and that's to me what makes it passive. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it worth all this, right? Like right before this podcast, the girls were outside riding their bikes. I was hanging out with them, eating lunch. Like I could never do that at the firehouse, right? Like you don't have someone telling you what to do every day, and I think that's really what most people are chasing. Not so much the monetary side of things, but really the time freedom side of things.
Well, I think most people can achieve it. Well, I hope most people can achieve it. I think there are situations where lots of people, or more people than currently do, could achieve that if if they listen to things like this that actually help them understand what are actionable items that can help them get to that point. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, we've kind of come, to be honest with you, we kind of came full circle there for a minute where we were talking about the whole active versus passive, and we talked early on about your W-2 in the fire station. For me, I looked at my dad and I said, most of what you're doing is passive. Whether you want to consider it or not, you're putting money into a 401k, for a perceived future value of a portion of an asset. And when I really got into it and started to kind of learn for myself, I instead of owning a portion, a very minute portion of an asset, I want to own a large portion of an asset that I can control. That's really what it came down to for me. I can't control what they're doing with Apple or Meta or, uh, Wells Fargo or Coke, but I can control what happens in my accounting firm. I can control what happens with my software business. I can control, or you can control, what goes on with your storage facility, or how value add a property to increase the revenue or increase the future value. So for me, that's what it really came down to, was the control. And yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Yeah, the road has been hell sometimes. It's been extremely difficult, but now that I can control what the outcome looks like, the outcome's fantastic. You can spend time with your daughters. I can go spend time with my son and my wife, this weekend that we've got some
Yeah.
plans to do. And that's why I do it,
Well,
and I, sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say the journey is tough, dude. It's tough, but then when you look back at it, you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. But like in real
Yeah.
time, you're like, oh my god, what is going on? The end of the world's coming. Like, we got some stuff going on right now that we're rebuilding, and I go home and tell my wife, she's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Yo, the end of the world's coming," and she's like, "What's wrong with you? Like, it's fine." And I'm like, "I know, but I guess that's that whole care thing, right?" But it's like
Yeah.
most people, like, what you can do, what you can accomplish in a 10-year period or a 1-year period is like almost unfathomable looking forward. But then when you look backwards, you're like, holy shit, dude. Like, for us to have a $70 million portfolio in like under 10 years, if you told me on day one, that's what like all I cared about was like trying to get to 30 houses. And then all of a sudden we're at a $70 million portfolio with like unlimited growth trajectory in our opinions going forward. It's like never, never, never in a billion years. If I would have owned 30 houses, we're talking about like $5 million bucks, dude. Like one acquisition last year was 2x that, right? Like we bought an
Yeah.
$11 million property, and it's just like it's unfathomable what you can accomplish, and it's so hard because like when you're looking up at it, you're like, dude, that's impossible. And then all of a sudden you're there, you're like, wow, what a beautiful top of the mountain that you're at. What mountain could we go climb next?
And sometimes along the way, you encounter a Judy that just makes the ride all the more worth it. Am I right?
Hey, there's what do they call those people that take you up to the top of Everest, right? Like you need that guide every once in a
A
while. It's like, hey, why
Sherpa.
don't you come?
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you come up this path instead? Or let me help you. Give me your backpack and I'll get you up there. And again, it's doing the right thing. It's telling people what you do. It's showing everybody. It's doing the right thing and putting the property and putting whatever you believe in first out there, and it'll come back. If not 10, if not 1x, definitely 10x. It always comes back over and over and over again. And again, some days it's draining, some days it's super rewarding, but you know what? It's worth every single second of it. And I tell everybody, dude, go do it. And you might even invest in one of our deals, or you might invest in one of Brady's deals. But you know what? I tell everybody, you should go own your own real estate too. You have to. You
Yeah.
have to go out there. You should learn it. You should have your own secure wealth, and you should diversify. Like, why would, again, going but kind of back to your dad, like that's like, and especially in the public service world, everyone says just throw your money in deferred comp. Don't think about it. Just stick it there, and guess what? In 30 years, it'll be worth more. And generally, that's true. But in the same sense, it's like you have no clue what you're throwing your money into, and like forget the
Yeah.
political crap of all these big companies. It's like, would you rather help Brady? Like, would you rather be a part of something that you can see, feel, and touch? Or you want to be part of this thing that you have no
No
clue of what
idea.
it does or what you're supporting? And I don't know why people have this. It's almost like a relationship with money that's like not valued, of like, whatever, let me just throw $500 a week or $100 a week in this deferred comp or this 401k plan, and whatever, my $100 is gone, versus saying, man, that's my $100, and this one $100 bill might change what my family looks like in the future. And I tell everybody, learn about personal financial freedom, learn about a personal financial statement, learn what it means to have true net worth, learn all that stuff, spend the time. It's the best thing that you can do. And yes, we do real estate. Brady does taxes. Find something that you're passionate about. Literally today, I would show you guys on my phone. A friend of mine, he left the fire department. He got medically retired, and he's been working for Southwest, and he loves it. Southwest is a good company from what I understand, and he loves it. And he texted me today. He's like, "Dude, what am I doing? I'm working for $20 an hour." And I just said, "Yo, Bobby, what does your life look like if money wasn't an object? What would you do every day?" Go right on that. He's like, "Dude, that's the deepest, most profound question I've ever got." And I said, "You need to figure out what you're passionate about. And if it's truly family time, then you need to find an industry that you can work in or create a business that allows you to have complete time freedom. If it's about money, then you can go find something where you can make an F ton of money and leave a legacy. You need to find out what your core values are. And if you live by your core values, and you don't violate them, you'll always be in harmony, and life will be a lot easier." Man, you gotta be, dude, like super religious and like deep today, dude. I don't know what you're doing, man. I gotta go to Utah every once in a while. I'm getting uncomfortable. Can you tell? I'm like uncomfortable. I don't normally talk like this, man. You got me going.
Hey, I'm just getting you ready for the weekend. It's gonna be a great weekend. Ian, I want to thank you for hopping on. Even though I'm not a stock guy, for those listening, please understand that stocks do have their place. They play an important role in financial literacy. Yep. And Ian doesn't, I don't think he disagrees with that. But I will say that there's, understand how you want to invest. And I always say money is an idea, and whatever your idea is about money is correct. So if you don't have an idea, find an idea and find something that you like and enjoy and want and are interested in. And I promise you that if you do, you will be able to make more money. There is no doubt about it, and no one would argue that. Ian, thank you for hopping on. Again, for those listening, this has been another fantastic conversation. I mean, I think Ian got goosebumps. He's sweating over there.
I'm sweating, but you're not going to get me in a church. I promise you that. Maybe next go around you can try. So we'll see. But
thank you for hopping on. For those listening again, you'll quickly find again that we do anything but slacking off. So thanks for hopping on, Ian.
Yeah, man. If you guys want to see any case studies on how we structure deals, you can check out equitywarehouse.com. Sorry, last minute plug, but I think it's good that everybody checks out other people's deals and just kind of see what we're doing, how we got to where we are, and hopefully you can recreate it yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian. Everyone have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to Slackin' Off with Brady Slack.